Nostalgia is a very interesting thing because a lot of things can be considered nostalgic depending when you grew up. For 80s kids, a lot of movies and shows such as like Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Back to the Future, which I literally have right up there, Breakfast Club, as well as many other different movies and shows can be considered nostalgic. Same goes for like 90s kids and onwards, because many different things are nostalgic to those generations. But the point of my video today is I'm going to talk about some nostalgia I have for Warner Bros. I know, funny I'm talking about Warner Bros. Right after they've lost billions of dollars like about a month or two ago. To clarify though, I have a lot of nostalgia for Warner Bros. Movies, TV shows, and even theme parks? Yeah, they actually have a few theme parks across the globe, so I may as well just talk about my nostalgia for their theme parks first. Sorry, if you didn't know, besides from there being a Warner Bros. Theme park at like Dubai and Germany, there's actually one in the Gold Coast in Queensland, which is in Australia. And that theme park is called Movie World. The whole park has rides themed around different Warner Bros. Characters, such as DC characters to the park. Even making a Wizard of Oz section that's meant to come out in 2024, which replaces the Arkham Asylum ride, which was originally the Lethal Weapon ride. Before the Superman ride came out, that was the scariest ride to go on. Honestly, going back and watching these ads again from when I was younger of the theme park Movie World is so nostalgic to me. Such as the ads for Superman Escape, Scooby-Doo Spooky Coaster, and even the Matrix exhibition, which that ad alone was on a million times when I was younger, and it was even on some DVDs that I owned. Honestly, with the Superman Escape ad, I don't even remember it being an ad for the ride. I just remember the ad itself with the dude skydiving. I had no idea that it was meant to be for the ride. I've been to Movie World many times because I've been to the Gold Coast for holidays many times, as it's only a 2-hour flight away from where I live in Melbourne. And usually I go on a holiday to the Gold Coast about once every 2 years, I'd say. Also, whilst I'm scripting this, I'm actually in Queensland going to the theme parks, and hey, here's me at the park in November this year, the current year of 2022. But so many things at this theme park are so nostalgic for me. Most of the things are gone, but still some of them are actually around. Such as Wild West Falls, which is very loosely based off that terrible Will Smith film, Wild Wild West. I know this because they play the fucking song on repeat in the line and it sucks. The ride itself still bangs, but I'm gonna be honest, it does need an update. Another nostalgic ride for me is the Scooby-Doo Spooky Coaster. This is a ride that still absolutely slaps, but this time it was closed. And I haven't been on the ride since they've redone it to be the new generation where they changed the effects of the ride to like be projectors and stuff compared to practical effects. From what I've heard though, it's not as good as how it was originally, but I'll have to wait and see if I actually get to go to the Gold Coast when the ride's open. As things that are nostalgic but are gone are things like the Hogwarts Express being near the Wild West Falls, and the biggest one for me was the Batman Adventure ride. This shit was so good, like the line was literally Wayne Manor, and then when you get on the ride, it's literally a small little Batmobile as a simulator ride, and in the ride itself, you basically fight against Batman's Rogues Gallery. Funny thing about this ride is that both Kevin Conroy, may he rest in peace, and Mark Hamill reprised their roles for this ride. And when I mentioned this to Mark Hamill on Twitter like last year, he had no idea that this was the case. But full video of the ride is on YouTube. It's not easy to find, but you can tell it's Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprising their roles. There are a few other little things at Movie World that are nostalgic to me, such as like the Looney Tunes log ride, which has been gone for like 15 years, and a few little shops that have just popped up and disappeared. Warner Bros. Movies. Obviously, there's a lot of Warner Bros. Movies that are nostalgic to many different people because Warner Bros. Owns a lot of properties. But let me start off with one that was filmed in the Gold Coast, since I was just talking about Movie World, which is in the Gold Coast. Do you remember that masterpiece in 2002 that was a live-action adaptation of a specific Hanna-Barbera cartoon? Yeah, the live-action Scooby-Doo film was filmed in the Gold Coast. Most of it was filmed on an island just off of Brisbane, which is less than an hour away from the Gold Coast. Some of it was filmed in the studio behind Movie World, where other films like Thor, Ragnarok, and Aquaman were filmed. But one particular scene was shot right outside of my hotel.
So this is the view I have from the hotel. They filmed one scene from Scooby-Doo, it must be season 2, right there.
They even have the Scooby-Doo Spooky Coaster in Movie World, which is literally based on that one ride section in the movie on Spooky Island. It's literally copy and paste from the movie, and it's fucking awesome. But even with all that aside, the movie's just nostalgic to me. And looking back at the movie now, it's actually a good live action adaptation. One of very few, but it's still notable. By the way, the main cast are really well casted as the main mystery gang. And to be fair, Matthew Lillard was that good as Shaggy that he became the voice of Shaggy and has been for the past 20 years. By the way, Scooby-Doo 2 is a great movie as well, but it's strange because I feel like the second movie should be the first movie and the first one should be the second movie. Another series of films that are nostalgic to me, but not as much as the other two movies, is the Dark Knight trilogy. It's mainly Batman Begins and the Dark Knight. Dark Knight Rises isn't really that nostalgic because it's only 10 years old. Plus, even then, Batman Begins and the Dark Knight is better than the Dark Knight Rises, so... If you know me, you know that I love the character Batman and a lot of media that Batman's in, and I'll get more into that later on. But these two Batman movies came at the perfect time for me, since they were literally around the time where I started getting into the character of Batman. It was about a year or two before Batman Begins came out where I started to watch things that were Batman related. I have watched both movies countless times, and I still think The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero movies of all time. But the Batman is also fucking awesome. Surprisingly though, out of WB movies, Harry Potter wasn't nostalgic for me. It's just not my thing. I even went out of my way to read the books when I was younger, and it's still just not my thing. I didn't really enjoy Harry Potter that much. I understand why people like it, but it's not my taste. The last movie that's nostalgic for me, which will actually tie into the next topic, is the movie Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This movie is that good that I actually own it on Blu-ray. But the movie's basically a long episode of Batman the Animated Series, but it's an actual movie with a bigger budget and doesn't feel like one long episode of the show. And let me say that this movie is the best representation of Batman and Bruce Wayne as a character in a movie. If you haven't seen the movie, first off, I 100% recommend watching it because it's one of the best things that Batman the character's in. And secondly, don't go and just watch the trailer because the trailer doesn't do this movie justice. It basically makes the movie seem like it's a typical superhero flick when it's not. But as the story for the movie goes, it's a story where a new character called the Phantasm is killing mobsters and people believe it to be Batman killing them off. So throughout the movie, Batman tries to find out who the Phantasm is and actually stop them. Let me say that the movie is almost 30 years old and it still looks amazing. It really shows that great art direction is better than having amazing graphics. This is where I tie in the movie that I was just talking about before to this section, and well, if it isn't obvious, now I'm talking about Batman the Animated Series. But before I actually talk about the show itself, I want to talk about how I originally started watching the show. And believe it or not, but this was actually through DVDs that came from KFC. I can only find the Looney Tunes DVDs where they basically have the shorts on the DVDs, but they have some for Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. And don't worry, these DVDs will still be relevant for the other entries. Also, as the DVDs go, the main DVD I remember having was one that had Batman the Last Laugh episode on it. Basically an episode where the Joker infects Gotham with a cloud of laughing gas as Batman has to get the antidote to save Gotham and stop the Joker. But after seeing that when I was very young, I actually ended up going to watch the whole Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. But as Batman the Animated Series goes, I've watched this show way too many times, and I absolutely love it even now. By the way, Batman the Animated Series is probably the best source of Batman media out there. I'm not joking. The stories in the episodes are amazing with standouts like Almost Got 'Em, Two-Face Parts 1 and 2, Beware the Grey Ghost, both parts of Feet of Clay, Perchance the Dream, Birds of a Feather, The Man Who Killed Batman, and Heart of Ice. The episode Heart of Ice was so good at redoing Mr. Freeze's backstory that the terrible movie Batman and Robin even used that same backstory. By the way, that's the masterpieces that were only in the first season. There's a lot more in the other 3 seasons. I could honestly ramble on and on for days with how good this show is, and the show is actually written by extremely talented people like Paul Dini, Randy Rogel, Alan Burnett, Dennis O'Flaherty, Tom Ruger, Lauren Bright, and Michael Reeves. Not the one that directed the Batman. By the way, Paul Dini is so good at writing the character that he even went on to write Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. Whilst I'm on the topic of Batman and DC, I may as well just talk about Justice League and Justice League Unlimited because those two shows are very nostalgic for me as well. If you're on Twitter often, I imagine that you would have seen some clips from the show, such as when Clark says goodbye to his family on Krypton in a fantasy reality, and when Batman sits with the character Ace as she's dying. God damn it, these two clips still hit me hard in the feels because it's just amazing storytelling. There are quite a few moments like this in the shows, and even just well-written dialogue and normal dialogue sequences. This is with all the DC animated shows from Batman the Animated Series all the way up until Justice League Unlimited with hidden gems like Static Shock and Batman Beyond. Unfortunately, I didn't watch other shows when I was younger. I sought them out when I was a bit older. Damn, I was missing out as a kid, wasn't I? For the last entry, I'm pretty sure it was obvious I was going to talk about Looney Tunes. I think Looney Tunes is basically nostalgic for literally everyone on planet Earth, and even more nostalgic than things like Mickey Mouse. I think even after all of these years, Looney Tunes have been represented in media pretty well besides like the 2 Space Jam movies. Even with all the reboots and modernizations of the show, they've been pretty well represented over time. Obviously, the original run of Looney Tunes is some of the best stuff and the most nostalgic for me, mainly the Blue Ribbon run of shorts. Also with the KFC DVDs, they mainly have like the Blue Ribbon run of shorts on the DVDs, so those are the main episodes I watched when I was younger. As modern Looney Tunes shows go, I think the best one is the Looney Tunes show, which is honestly slept on, and it's actually pretty good because it modernizes the show, but it still has a lot of familiar elements from like the older shorts. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video where I basically gush on about my nostalgia for Warner Bros. Movies and shows. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, and if you enjoy my content, please make sure to subscribe as it does help me out a lot. Also, make sure to join my Discord server where you can talk to me as well as a bunch of amazing people in my community. Lastly, massive thanks for 5,000 subs. I don't know how we done this, but it's just surreal. It's surreal to see 5,000 subs, even a few days later. Like as I'm recording this, it's been about 3 or 4 days since I hit it. It's still really surreal to see that number. And don't worry, I got something cooking up for the 5,000 subs. Like it's not gonna be a Q&A, I might do that at 10k, but I got something cooking up, trust me. So, onto the shoutouts. First off, massive thanks to my first YouTube member on this channel, and that is Miranda S at my little old member tee. For the Patreon shoutouts, massive thanks to Diamond Pony and Madeline Stringer for signing up to my $2 pirate tier. Massive thanks to Juliet Wakefield for signing up to my $5 pusher tier. And lastly, massive thanks to SamM1994 for signing up to my $10 Pee Wee Herman tier. Now look at all the names that get a shout out as a part of my post, where I said if you comment before 5,000 subs on one of my community posts, you'll get a shout out on one of my videos. But anyways, if you want to find out how you get a shout out at the end of my videos, make sure to click the Patreon logo on screen, or click the link in the description to sign up for my Patreon, or click the join button to join my YouTube memberships if you want to be a YouTube member instead. Also, I have a Ko-fi page now, so if you want to donate money to me directly without signing up monthly, that's in the description too. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next video.